there's fear with risk and there's risk in the entrepreneurial journey. You just can't get around it. But I think what has gotten me through that is number one, really knowing your why. Like, why am I doing this in the first place? And number two, surrounding yourself with the people that believe in the vision, that can help you grow, help you see what you're not seeing, and, mentors that have done it before me and know things I don't know. So it's your community and really just understanding why you're doing it all to begin with.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and we turn them into super clinic owners. Today, you're here with me, Jennifer Gligoric, and we are going to start doing clinic spotlights. That's right. We're taking actual clinic owners. Some of them we've worked with, some of them we have not, but we're bringing them here for their stories. Today, we're going to be speaking with an amazing woman. She's a nurse practitioner. She's an entrepreneur, mother, wife, and men's health advocate who has scaled her business this year 347%. That's right. We definitely want to talk to her and find out how she did it. So let us give a really big Super Clinic Project welcome to Gabby Griffin to the show today of Men's Health Athens. Welcome to the show today, Gabby.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
So that is just amazing growth. Tell us a little bit about the journey of what made you decide, number one, to become an entrepreneur. Like, how did you get to be doing what you're doing right now?
Sure. So I actually had no idea this was in my future. My background was trauma and acute care surgery, and I love the acute care side of things, the adrenaline, no 2 days are the same. And I did that for years. And then COVID happened. And I think, like many in the hospital, we all, worked long hours and saw what was happening during the pandemic. And I just felt personally burnt out at the time. And that's when, kind of in my own journey, got introduced to functional medicine and more alternative wellness spaces, and started studying on my own. And I knew at that point, okay, that's where I'm headed. That's the direction I'm headed. So fast forward a few years, I unexpectedly got pregnant and have my little son, and he's the best surprise. But on maternity leave, the idea of going back to the hospital, I couldn't do it. And it was not in my plan. Like, my plan was to go back to the hospital, trauma work, but it was during maternity leave that I said, I just can't do that anymore, those kind of shifts. And I wanted to, be a mom and kind of do life on my terms. So it kind of sped up our plans. I was home for about 6 to 9 months with him, and we started talking about what the next, phase looked like. And the rest is history. We kind of jumped in and here we are.
I want everyone to understand it. So, when life throws you lemons, there are ways to make lemonade. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is about ethical entrepreneurship. And what it really means is really think about your divine purpose on the planet and what is your divine responsibility to yourself. And you just showcased that so perfectly. You had been doing something that was a good job. That's a great job. You're helping people. You are already into it. But then something happens and you have to continuously evaluate. And you evaluated and you took it's a risk, right? You did something very different.
Sure.
And there's fear with that. Can you tell people how it was dealing with that fear and how you work through that to get to where you're at right now? Because there is fear, like, what if it doesn't work? What if this happens? And your thought process to push you through that to get what you really wanted at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly there's fear with risk, and there's risk in the entrepreneurial journey. You just can't get around it. But I think what has gotten me through that is, number one, really knowing your why. Like, why am I doing this in the first place? And number two, surrounding yourself with the people that believe in the vision, that can help you grow, help you see what you're not seeing, and mentors that have done it before me and know things I don't know. So it's your community, and really just understanding why you're doing it all to begin with.
What would you say has been your, now that you've started out and now you've had incredible growth and you're continuing to grow and be in that growth mindset, what are some of the, and it can be one or it can be many, aha moments you've had along the way that you feel like, ooh, this is a good one, that if someone was starting another men's health practice just like me, these are the things that I would tell them is, this was important to know, so you don't have to go through the same trial I had. What would that be?
Yeah, I think there's several things. Probably the first, and this has been learned by well, number one, trial and error, and two, getting like really specific coaching. So I didn't know this at the time, so this is kind of hindsight in the last year or so. But tracking, knowing your numbers and knowing what to track. I didn't know what to track. When I started out, the first 6 months, I was kind of spinning my wheels. I was doing, what I knew, local networking and word of mouth, and even trying some advertising on my own. But I didn't know that world. So I didn't have any kind of real background in it and or experience with it. So it was not really productive. I think the networking part that's just building relationships. It takes time. But as far as the paid advertising and trying to learn marketing, I did not feel like I was very successful in that until I really started the accelerator launch and coaching. So that was kind of the first 6 months of trial and error, really trying to figure out what I didn't know. and then 6 months in, we met and started the our launch accelerator, and it was the beginning of that where I learned what numbers are really important that I need to be tracking, and I wasn't tracking. I had no clue coming into it. And so,
For those of you who are listening who aren't aware, Gabby's one of our first spotlights because she's actually a client that I worked with. And so I wanted to bring her on, but we're also going to talk to other clinics who have, I've never worked with before to do a spotlight. So when she's talking about the accelerator program, she's specifically talking about ours. But this is really about, your journey. So you would say that learning the numbers, learning tracking was a big one, and
tracking consistently. Accurately, correct. And then what to focus on and what to pivot and change to improve, because if you're not tracking it, you can't improve it. And I didn't have any of that data really, other than I needed better numbers. So tracking was important. The other thing, I mean, for men's health specifically, it's a niche. There are certain, service lines that men are really interested in, and so I would encourage another men's health entrepreneur to focus on the niche and not try to be everything or do everything. So really getting good at a master of one thing, or even a couple of things that guys really need in this space, but not try to be great at all of it at the outset. It's just a recipe for not good things.
So you're saying focus on who you want to work with.
Yeah.
What made you decide that men's health was really where you could make an incredible impact?
Well, it was interesting. So when my baby was 6-9 months old, we started doing our market research at what was in the area. I knew kind of this functional wellness was my direction, but it was multifactorial. I think that there were a couple of general wellness clinics in the area doing well. There were a couple of women's focused clinics in the area doing the same thing for women. And I saw in the kind of greater Atlanta area, the men's health niche was blowing up and coming this way, but there was nothing here. So that was a very practical, like just market research thing. But then seeing, honestly, on the personal side, seeing the just having experience with this type of healthcare that's that's lacking for men. Like there's this group of men out there that are having these symptoms, having these issues, but because of the current guidelines of conventional medicine and how they're treated and insurance rules and all of these things, they're not getting what they need. They're not getting the help they need. So they're, like, okay, well, here's an antidepressant, your labs are fine. Here's an antidepressant. Or here is, you know, I don't know, work out a little bit. Here's a sleeping pill. It just like here's a prescription, here's a band-aid, and it doesn't really fix the problem. Optimizing guys' hormones. I've had guys come off of their antidepressants they never needed in the first place. So
that's just amazing. And I think that we need to talk about that more because I'm the mother of both boys and girls, but I can tell you that the healthcare is different. It's struggling on both areas. On the women's end, you get women to say, yeah, I can go in there and I'm having a heart attack. And they'll go, oh, you probably just need to lose some weight. For some reason, that is just stuck. Even average, normal, healthy weight people get told these things, or it's just anxiety. And you're like, no, it's actually, I've got, a tumor, like it's just, it's ridiculous. Right. And so, and that is because the system is broken and it's continued to break. And it's interesting to me because we get this assumption that men are just walking around getting the best of everything, but that's not true. It really is all of us. Yes. And I love the fact that you saw that, you noticed it, and you were like, hey, you deserve good healthcare too. We all deserve great healthcare.
Yeah. And not to be brushed off or just given a Band-Aid for really what, an issue that could be fixed and really have a good quality of life, that we want our guys to have, because when they're stronger and healthier, our families are, our, communities are. So that's kind of why I went this route.
Well, I'm glad. So going back to the more entrepreneurial part, what routines do you follow every day that you think has helped you to have such explosive growth? Not just, well, there is a desperate need and I'm helping people who need me to help them. I mean, that's that's where the market research comes in. I mean, yes, we are here bringing our divine purpose to the forefront, but at the same time, is there a need for this purpose here? Right. And there was. So besides that, what other routines do you feel like you follow that can be very helpful for other entrepreneurs, not just clinic owners?
I think probably one of the biggest things is your quiet time alone. And that can be first thing in the morning. For me, with the baby, a lot of times it has been at night, and it's been sometimes midnight, which isn't the best time, but I, had to as a breastfeeding mom, just when I can. But if I've noticed when I take that time to refuel, whether it's, my quiet time in my faith or for entrepreneurial content reading, like constantly trying to, I don't get through books super fast, but constantly trying to grow my understanding of this journey and see where, learn my weak spots or blind spots. And again, like I said, learn what I don't know. So whether that's strategy or, finances or mindset for me, like the CEO, like entrepreneurial mindset, like understanding really how that impacts everything else was just kind of mind blowing. It's like, get that right. Get that mindset right. One. And it affects everything. So, but I can't get in that right mindset if I'm not taking that time to refuel and reinvest back into, my own growth. So that's probably been one of the biggest things. The other thing is very practical, but just scheduling, and just being very disciplined with the calendar. It's been a lot as we're, growing, and you and I have had these discussions about, being the almost sole provider in the clinic and wearing the CEO hat and like, that the administrative tasks and also, wearing all the hats, janitor and all of that too. So it's like you're just learning how to juggle it all, and you cannot do it all well without being really disciplined with your time.
Yeah, one thing, you've been very disciplined, but you've also grown. So you have other people now that are
Yes,
helping.
that has
And
made
yeah. So that is a big difference, is you grow when you're supposed to grow and push
Mhm.
yourself to that growth. Even though growth can be scary, because you think, well, what if we don't get enough business to keep them? Or what if
Right.
they, stuff like that. What would you say has been the biggest challenge? Because you're still a newer clinic, but you're growing and you're doing a great job. Now we're pushing to getting to that $1 million clinic status. Like we're about
Mhm.
what, 10,000 a month or so, about 10 to
Yeah.
13,000 from that. If we can get to that, then it's $1 million,
Mhm.
business. What do you
Mhm.
say has been the biggest challenge with staff? Because you're very disciplined, and I know you have incredible checklists and things like that. You work with the staff so they understand what they're supposed to do. But what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far in just growth? And because I know hiring is a deal, right? It is a deal for all of our clients.
It's a deal. And you think you're wanting one of the biggest challenges,
Yeah,
probably?
challenges and how you came to the forefront with that challenge. I'm thinking of one specifically, but I'm wondering if you'll think of the same one.
Challenges. Well, it's been such a learning curve. There's been multiple challenges. I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the same one you're thinking
Okay,
of.
so I'll say that she has an incredible staff, but learning to be a boss to communicate with the staff was a
Yeah.
challenge on how to communicate what the actual outcomes that you needed to have in
Yes.
order for the clinic to experience growth and for the staff to be able to look forward to continued growth in their pay and growth in other things. And
Yeah.
you're being able to figure the communication cadence down and how you were to do that without
Yeah.
just getting frustrated and saying, okay, well, we're just going to let people go, right? That is,
Mhm.
I think, too many people. I'm quick to that if I get like mad, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but at the same time, the hiring and the training and everything else, you
Yeah.
can't be too quick. You've got to look, have I done everything? You've been very good, I
Mhm.
think. In fact, even better than me, I will give you all the credit on thinking to yourself, have I done everything I needed to do
Mhm.
in order to communicate what the needs are so that they can action on them?
Mhm. Mhm. And I had to learn, um, you know, weekly check-ins, one-on-one check-ins, how to effectively communicate expectations and also hold people accountable for those expectations. And I wouldn't say I've arrived. Like that's an ongoing process. But just I think realizing the need for that and just you have to rise to the occasion and do it. No one else is going to do it.
Yeah.
Like you just got to do it. So I think I think that's probably out. We're not taught business, we're not taught management, we're taught clinical, like clinical work, right? And so how to manage people is a whole different ball game that I'm having to learn.
Yeah, I think you're doing a good, I think you've been doing a really good job of it. So, what are you most excited about for Men's Health for the future?
I got so many ideas. I'm excited just in general, but I think I have really fallen in love with the process of growing growing the business and making the business better. And I love clinical work too. So don't get me wrong. Like there is the clinical aspect, but like the process of building this entity and making it efficient and meeting these needs, like it's I think being able to hire more help so I can further focus on more reach and more efficiency in what we do, helping more people. So I think when, when efficiency gets better, which is through your processes and your systems and, all of these things we're working on, like how much further you can go in both impact and, personal and business growth, I think is what I'm probably most excited about.
I'm excited for that too. I always get excited for growth when people are pursuing their passion and they really know that they're helping people, because then, well, then you're plugged into humanity. Like, what else are we supposed to be doing than plugging into humanity? Like, I'll think about it in terms of like, and I know I've talked to you about this, about AI, my worries about it. On one hand, it's like, oh no, the Terminator, we're all going to die. Bad idea. And then on the other hand, utilizing it to learn how to ask better questions or to do some of the busy work I find fascinating. Like, if I can do the ways that we can, and I think that this is really an incredible thing for CEOs to think about, anyone who's listening to the spotlight, is when you think about it, your business and you and what you do, think about it the way kids think about AI. Like, how can I do the funnest things I want to do with the least amount of effort, because the busy work is being done by my like personal robot, right? And when you have that young mindset, it becomes very expansive. So I'll just say, to add to like something, there are many different AI. So let's say you're doing an AI for ads and you don't know how to ask the AI to do the ad copy you want, or let's say, or emails out. Like, how do we do a really good email? I want to do this referral program out, and I want to do some flyers and stuff like that. So you get AI, like, do a really exciting promotion to make men want to come in and do this, right? That is a great question, right? But let's say the AI doesn't give you what you want. There is another AI you can go to that can say, this is what I want. Tell me how to ask a marketing AI how to do this. That's awesome. It'll just tell you how to ask it more. And I'm like, that is so lazy. It's so lazy to not think, but yet at the same time, that's brilliant. But then I put that to, but that should be our goal as entrepreneurs. How do I get into the highest, best use? Well, how can I get someone to help me with that? And then actually ask them and get them to help you. And when you can get into that role, then it's like, but get out of the, well, if I want it right, I'll just do it myself.
Correct.
Yeah. And so I think that becoming, and I've seen your journey like that, as you become more into that mindset and less of this, I'm going to do it all myself, which is this wonderful nurturing. I'm going to do it because I care so much and I want it to be done right. It comes from such a great place.
Sure.
But then when
it limits your ability to help more people. You reach the limit of what you can physically do, your capacity, and then you're not going to grow. So you've got to take a step back and think bigger than you, and that's again mindset.
Yeah, especially if you are time challenged, right? I was like, I heard that and I kind of rolled my eyes. If you're not on the video, I'm rolling my eyes just saying time challenge. But I heard someone say that, and they were trying to get out of having to come to work at a certain time because they were trying to argue with their boss. They were time challenged, and that was that's accommodation they needed. So that's why I kind of laugh at that. But that's true. There's something someone actually tried. But if that's it, if you really do feel like you're time challenged, so I could say, Gabby's a mom, a wife. She has a full life. She's got friends. But yet, how do you make the most of your time? You have to get into that mindset so that you are truly making the most of your time, so that you are focusing on the things that are really important. Even if that thing is my baby. And I need this via my baby and my patience. These things.
Yeah. I'm reading this book right now. 10x is easier than 2x.
Ooh, okay.
I forget the author, and that's terrible. But But the idea, and I'm not through it all the way, but it's been so helpful. The idea is list out everything you do in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And now look at what of those things drive 80% of the results in your business. And I listed like 15 things that I do. And I highlighted about 3 or 4 that bring 80% of the results. And the whole point of the book is now you either automate, you hire for, or you get rid of those other 10 or whatever things, 10 or 11 things. You get those off your plate and you focus on that 20% of things that bring 80% of the results. And it's a whole different strategy of how you think about, because his point was, if you're thinking, okay, I want to double my revenue like in the next quarter. So what are we going to do to 2x our revenue? Well, we're going to 2x our efforts, right? So we're going to do more of what we've been doing, just twice it or double it or whatever.
But hyper focused on the things that matter.
Well, his point was you're working on doubling your effort, doubling your hours, doubling your work and time spent into this, when in reality, if you take a step back and say, what if I want to 10x my impact, 10x my numbers in the next quarter? What would that take? That's a whole different strategy. 2 times your effort and 2 times your, the number of patients we see here, 2 times it isn't going to get you to 10x. So what will get you to 10x? And that was his whole point. Look at what you're doing and focus on the 20% of tasks that drive your results. And you basically outsource everything else. You get that stuff off of your plate and you focus on that 20% that drives results. And you may not hit 10x, but you're going to hit 2x a lot easier than you would if you kept trying to do it all.
That's why we always say, get out of admin and fulfillment.
Yep.
Those are the
That's
first
exactly
2 that when we say, well, how much is admin? How much is fulfillment? It's the same principle, but I love the way he says that. I'm going to look at that too, because
it's been so helpful, Jennifer.
Because I'm reading a book right now that, well, I'll tell you about that later. That's absolutely, I think, life-changing that I'm going to use from now on. And I'm like, I've told myself this a million times. It's like most of what you hear, you're like, but I've heard that before. But sometimes it takes someone saying it in a different way for you to go, oh, that's what that really means to you to do it. Yeah, I love that. I 100%. Love it when we find those.
Yeah, I feel like that's what this book, has done for me. And it's just kind of reshaping how I'm looking at, the calendar I talked about and all of these, like we talk about fulfillment or all of these things. I'm wearing all these hats, and it's like, what 20% can I focus on? And, either hire, automate, or get rid of those other things that are not driving results. So, and then you focus on that 20%. And the idea is keep doing that. Do that every month, like reevaluate every month and you will grow. You can't not grow doing that.
Right. That's great advice. That's actually really good, solid advice. I appreciate you telling us about that. Okay. So before we go, tell us a little bit. So again, we've been talking with Gabby Griffin, and she is the founder of Men's Health Athens. She works with men. Tell everyone how they can find you and where to go to see you.
Yeah. So we're just right out of Athens, Georgia. You can menshealthathens.com. We're on Facebook. We're on all the big social media, just Men's Health Athens. Pretty easy to find.
Okay. We heard at menshealthathens.com, or you can go to superclinicproject.com. And if you go to our free school, we have it in there. We'll have this episode, and we'll even have, we usually make a quiz, or, sometimes it's a spreadsheet. Sometimes it's a worksheet that goes along with every single episode. We're going to do that for our super clinics too. And we're on, of course, all platforms. But I want to thank you, Gabby, for being here today on our Clinic Spotlight. And I hope that we have you back again when you 500%ed, because I know that you're going to do it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project Podcast.